Welcome everyone to another episode of Modern Wong Chat. Tonight we have Alanah Pearce. You might have seen her face before on multiple shows as well. Welcome Alanah. Hello, how are you doing?
Just pretend I'm saying very interesting things this whole time. Can you laugh more,
Very
please?
interesting.
Ah, shit, it's working.
For those of you who missed it, we were just talking trash
Hi.
about you this whole
Yep.
time.
Whenever I have to set up for a Funhouse video, because we're doing all of our recordings from home right now, it
Mm-hmm.
takes about an hour before we can actually get to the gameplay of each
Why?
individual person having technical problems with recording. It's such a nightmare because your OBS always just wants to go back to its original settings or whatever.
Yeah, the cosplay industry actually has changed a lot in the last 10 years, gradually too. We have went from a convention-based type of event and hobby to be a very home-based, merch selling base, and people make a lot of money on, of course, Patreon, and then now OnlyFans. It's just a lot of digital content. People will love cosplayer because they love them for who they are. It's not just the photos, it's not just the video, it's not just whatever they cosplay, the character. They're like, oh, because this person, I love them for who they are.
Yeah.
So therefore, the need for photographer is actually not that high. Why would you spend more money if you're going to get the same amounts of results, like payments wise,
That is
income wise?
true. I feel like you specifically can offer people legitimacy. Like if they work with you or like someone else who's a known name as a cosplay photographer who's very good, like obviously you make quality photos that they could never get at home. It's just not going to happen compared to the way you shoot or edit or whatever. But I feel like you can also offer them like there are people who probably cosplay who are hobby cosplayers, which is also like a perfectly legit thing to do, but who want to like move into that professional scope. And I feel like working with someone like you is what even publicly changes the perception of them being a hobbyist versus
It does.
a professional.
It does. I think it's two things, right? It's one, of course, people support the cosplayer for who they are. The other problem that we have is that cosplayer are a self-individual business. So people can't really criticize them and they don't compare. Cosplayer cannot compare each other that way as well.
Fair. It is extremely subjective because it's art-based. Which is an interesting thing because a lot of people think that they can rate cosplay objectively and be like, well, this one's better than this one because it's more accurate. And be like, well, if she wasn't trying to, or he wasn't trying to be accurate and they were trying to like do something creative or something unique with a concept, that criticism doesn't work. But I feel like the perception of that hasn't quite hit a lot of people. Like people who casually see cosplay still get mad if it's not 100% accurate.
Because
like,
cosplay is such a young industry. It's very young as an industry. People always ask us like, oh, how do you get famous in cosplay? Or how do you get famous in any of the internet stuff? And we're like, we don't know, man. We just kind of ride along.
I mean, look, I get asked that all the time. It's like, how do you get this amount of followers on whatever? And my answer is always, every time, and I wish people would like buy it, is stop trying. Do whatever you want to do. Be yourself. Be super genuine. Have fun. You have to work, as in you have to make stuff. Having a consistent brand helps. Like you mentioned, liking my Twitter. It's an interesting thing where I think my Twitter.
I love your Twitter.
Thank you. And my Instagram all have very, very different audiences. Like I don't think the overlap on those platforms is that big because I use them all dramatically differently. My Twitter is like just really stupid jokes or insulting idiots who say stupid shit to me or like a stream of consciousness. It's all just like really dumb jokes. My Instagram is very much like a blog. Like it's very much like, here's what I did today. Here's how I feel. Like I'm very personal on Instagram. My YouTube is mostly like me talking about video games. But I think that those audiences are probably very separate. I would think there are like hundreds of thousands of people who aren't overlapped on the other ones who follow those independently. So I have grown them each independently. I studied marketing at university. Is a really interesting one because they go over how much of marketing is based on insecurity. So a lot of modern marketing, the tactic is trying to tell you there's something wrong with you. And they do it with like hair commercials. They'll be like silky, smooth. They try to convince you that your hair is inferior.
Never as good as that.
Like that, which you can't possibly have anyway. But you never would have thought about how silky or smooth your hair was, or not generally, until you've heard 100 ads tell you that hair should be silky and smooth, and thus you need this product to have silky smooth hair. I like have two minds on it where it bothers me that so many people don't realize a lot of this stuff is fake.
That's my problem. Like, you understand that movie is fake. That's fine. But also, that's not the news, If the news like that, I have a problem. Yeah.
Yeah. Like
people don't understand it.
There's just like a lot of Instagram models or whatever that I feel like people are holding as an ideal standard. And I just want to be like, these people don't look like this in person. That's surgery. That woman was not born that way. I promise you. And having the conflict of that, I just feel like is giving people this like insane. It happens with male models too. I know they Photoshop their stuff as well on Instagram, and there's like a huge audience for just hot dudes walking around shirtless drinking coffee on Instagram. That's not a thing too. And they both do the same thing, and I just always want to be like, to the young people watching this, that is not real. Like it's real enough in that yes, that is a human that exists, but the image you are seeing is not what that person
It's
looks
catered
like
to
in real life.
made.
It's just
Yeah.
so specific, and
Mhm.
that's the only part of it that drives me insane is that people don't realize, and it can give them such like a messed up
And
sense of
yeah,
themselves.
young
Just
people
whatever.
they have such they're so impressionable. It's very skill, Like for us specifically, we do this for a job. Like so a lot of stuff we make, and not just us, but our producer and all these people who make shows and do stuff, they have to do a lot of work to make this into a thing. But I don't want them to feel like this is how people are just like,
Oh
having
yeah,
fun and pretty
yeah.
pretty.
Yeah, I'm a producer at Funhouse. That's a thing. It's like
Mhm.
like a lot of people might think that we just walk into a room and then everything's hilarious, but some of these things take weeks of planning and
Mhm.
3 days of editing.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, I fucking
it's
hate
such a
editing.
big team effort to make
Mhm.
sure everything functions, and then you can be like, well, why can't I just like hang out with my friends and make that content? Even though we make it look like it's not, this is a professional studio. We have a
Mhm.
professional studio that we have by virtue of smart production made it look like it's three people hanging out in a shitty room like
Mhm.
friends do, but it is still literally a production house. Like, yeah, I try to like publicly on social media or whatever, if I'm having a tough time, be really open about that. And I always have tried to do that so that like there isn't the perception that my life is incredible, which for the record, plenty of things about my life are fucking dope and incredible.
Oh yeah,
But I
we
never
got you.
want to
Yeah.
like only share that side of it, right? Like I get to do a lot of cool stuff. I'm not like gonna be like, my life's just as boring as yours. I'm sad too, because like I get to do a lot of cool shit. But
Mhm.
there's also massive downsides all the time, things that I don't share, obviously.
Mhm.
And I try to like be like I had a bad day or whatever. And sometimes the reception to that's really positive. People are like, I'm glad that you share this side of
Mhm.
stuff so we get perspective. Sometimes people respond with anger because they're like, shut up, your life's perfect, how dare you? Which maybe means I don't do it enough. I don't know.
Do you still do hosting stuff?
Yeah.
Do you like that better, or do you like doing YouTube better? Because it's very different, I feel like,
Um,
too.
my favorite thing to do is writing. I was hired at IGN as a writer. I have most experience as a writer. So like anytime that I get to like write a feature or an article as a journalist, that's like my favorite thing
Uh-huh.
in the world. But not very much money in it. If I were just
Oh,
doing
yeah.
that right now, I probably couldn't survive in LA, frankly.
Especially worse now, too, right? Because most platform, publication.
It's just games media pays shit.
Oh,
Hosting
definitely.
pays very well. So like my main job role is a producer, even for my own YouTube. Is like it is a lot of just like planning, editing. I do everything. But yeah,
Mhm.
I do still do hosting. So I'm still on camera at Funhouse, and I do a lot of like freelance hosting. So I'll just
Mhm.
host stuff for different companies pretty often, and that's a thing that I like to do, but will also only stubbornly do if I can also produce and write. Generally, like I had one
Ooh.
person
Mhm.
at IGN be like, just stand in front of the camera and read this. I don't go down well with that. I think I'm generally very easy to work with, and people would be like, Alanah, great, hire her, done. It's so easy. We can get shit done. The minute
Uh-huh.
that you're like, just read the script, Alanah, it's going to be a problem. I'm going to be like, no, why would I just read someone else's word on camera? What the fuck is the point of that? Like, I'm so against it. You're like, I have to
Especially
like
if it's like doesn't align with your view. Like,
well, sometimes they're wrong. Like with
Mm.
games industry stuff, I'm like, if you're having someone write a script for me, as someone who is a journalist in this field, the chances of them knowing more than me as a script writer is really low. For the most part, they tend to hire TV script writers to then write
Uh-huh.
about gaming news, right? It's not games journalists. They don't do it that
Mhm.
way. It's TV writers who then write for people like me. And I'm like, this motherfucker said the wrong thing in the script. Why am I reading
Mhm.
this stupid script? Like I would look like an idiot. So I have to like
Yep.
go through the scripts and be like, you
Oh, and
should
people
just
want to
let me write
super
this.
judge you because you're a woman.
Well, yeah. So if I'm wrong and it's because it was written in the script, it's totally still my fault. Like you just,
Yeah.
I'll always be like, no, dude, I'm writing this goddamn script, or I'm not doing it. For the most part, like there are like recurring criticisms that I get all the time. Like I think that most people don't know that I study journalism, or that I have 8 years experience, or like know, I started out in magazines. I think they just think that I walked into somewhere and worked on camera. That's like definitely still an assumption that happens with like being a woman. Whereas like I
Mhm.
know men at IGN who that literally happened for, but nobody ever gets on them about it. It's only ever the
Mhm.
women. Like, there were guys at IGN who literally just walked into IGN. Like, oh my god, it was so hard for me to get there. It was so hard. They worked for
That
free for
is
like 2 years and then built up this. My resume was like 28 outlets by the time that I got a job there. Like, it was massive. I'd done national radio and national TV. Like, I had written for 4 magazines. I'd won an award. Like, it
Mhm.
was so much. And then people like, don't deserve your job though. But then men, like, I know a guy who literally worked at a coffee shop, met someone there, said he was a fan of him, and then the guy was like, so it was like someone at IGN or whatever, and the IGN employee was like, we're actually hiring. Do you want to work for us? That's it. That's all he had to do. But no one was ever like, how did he get the job though? Fuck that. Fuck that. That shit drives me nuts. Otherwise, things have gotten a lot better. Even in the 8 years that I've been in the industry, it's like I get called a gamer girl like still like once a month. But for the most part, anyone who thinks I don't play video games is an idiot, and it just doesn't really happen anymore. Like it's definitely chilled out to some extent. I just don't think it's ever going to change. The people will be like, but she doesn't deserve her job. And be like, bitch, I have so much more experience than you. Come on, man.
Everyone, thank you for joining. This has been great.
Thank
I had a
you.
fun time. Thanks for watching and have a great night. See y'all later. Bye.